opens by reframing agriculture not as seasonal labor, but as long-term asset creation, inviting the viewer to see perennial fruit crops as living infrastructure systems, planted once and engineered to generate value for decades, describing roots pushing downward through layers of soil, anchoring capital beneath the surface long before any visible return appears. The narration lingers on the idea that perennial farming begins with patience rather than speed, where the earliest years are defined by preparation, restraint, and foresight. As land is shaped, organic matter is built. Irrigation lines are positioned with precision, and young trees are planted not for immediate harvest but for endurance, with each decision compounding silently over time. The voiceover emphasizes that unlike annual crops, these plants are not reset each year, explaining how the first seasons are an investment phase where growth is invisible. Returns are absent, and the work appears disproportionate to the reward. Yet this quiet stage is where long-term profitability is locked in. As seasons pass, the narration guides attention to repetition, rainfall cycles, sunlight arcs, dormancy and regrowth, explaining that perennial systems improve with age, requiring less soil disturbance, fewer inputs, and more stability as root systems deepen and ecosystems balance themselves. The tone remains measured and observational, while describing pruning and training as acts of discipline rather than force, shaping structure for airflow, light penetration, and load-bearing strength, ensuring that future harvests are not just abundant, but sustainable over decades. The voiceover draws a contrast between short-term yield chasing and long-term yield ownership, noting how each year after maturity represents reduced cost and increasing output, turning time itself into a productive tool. As harvesting begins, the narration does not celebrate speed or volume, but consistency, explaining that mature perennial orchards deliver predictable returns season after season, regardless of fluctuating labor intensity, framing the harvest not as an endpoint but as a recurring dividend. Moving into processing, the voiceover highlights how washing, sorting, grading, and value addition do not fundamentally change the product, but stabilize it for markets, converting biological variability into commercial reliability, and reinforcing the idea that refinement is about control and repeatability. The narration expands on how perennial crops integrate naturally with mechanization and automation over time, as uniform tree structure and consistent output allow systems to be optimized year after year, lowering marginal costs while increasing margins. The voiceover reflects on how the true power of perennial farming lies in deferred gratification, where years of quiet maintenance replace the constant urgency of replanting, and where land becomes more productive the longer it is left intact. As finished products appear, clean, packaged, export-ready, the narration frames them as visible proof of invisible work completed years earlier, emphasizing that the majority of effort was already paid for in the past. The voiceover deepens philosophically, suggesting that perennial agriculture aligns economic logic with ecological stability, reducing soil erosion, preserving moisture, and building resilience against climate variability, while simultaneously generating reliable income. It explains that each mature tree represents a fixed cost already absorbed, now producing surplus year after year, transforming farming from repetitive expense into managed ownership. The narration continues by comparing perennial systems to long-term infrastructure projects, where upfront planning dictates decades of performance